Photoshop Senior Edition, folks. We're going to start out this particular lesson with a traditional cutout and drop person to the background. This is my oldest daughter, Christy, who I finally rounded up to get a photograph of. And then we're going to also do a cutout of Spice. And here's Spice. And this is a lot different than a traditional knockout situation to drop on a different background. Not just because it's a dog with feathers, although that in itself is a little unusual per se. But I did this with Spice, and I didn't know if everybody got a chance to see this particular image or not. I thought, now, okay, I've got Spice with the feathers, but if I knock Spice out, what am I going to do with her once I've knocked the feathers out of that black background? So sometimes my creative juices are not flowing too well, but then I saw this truck, and I thought, let's just have Spice go country for a change. And so I took and knocked her out and put her on this bale of hay next to an old farm truck. So sometimes there's a way out of these problems. So Spice went country. So that's what we're going to do for one of the things for this week anyway. So let's start out with the traditional photograph right here of Christy. And for this one, we're just going to start off with the lasso tool. And we don't have to be accurate with this particular tool. We don't go crazy and do something like this. That's only going to cause you big troubles. Now you can either do a Control-D to turn this off, or you can just click somewhere in the image and the marching ants will go away. You want to get fairly close to the hair, but you don't want to touch it or get right on top of it. Give some space, and you have to go completely around the area that you want to select, basically. Now there's some flyaway hair right here, obviously there, and some right here and here and here. So you've got to allow a little leeway there in those particular areas. Now, one of the big things is let's go ahead and do that. Let's click on Refine Edge right here at the top, which brings up this dialog box, and immediately it chops off the rest of the image. And of course, if we click on this box up here, we can work on it with any of these particular backgrounds that we want. Obviously, this is not helpful at all because we can't see where the edge of the actual hair is or anything else. Here you have the background to the hair. Here you can't tell where anything is. I like having the white in this particular case. Every image may be different, so you just kind of have to evaluate that as you go. So the next step is determining the sliders here, and for this one and most of the people images that I have used for this, this usually works the best. To click on Smart Radius and usually go about halfway down the Smart Radius slider. And don't worry about any of these. Typically, you'll see this edge go soft. And then we just go down here, make sure Output to is on New Layer with Layer Mask. And let's just move this out of the way a little bit. Here's the key thing. This brush that you see right here, it defaults to a brush. If you look over here we don't have a brush selected. This is the brush for Refine Edge. Alright, so right now it's tiny. So we need a pretty good size brush, so I'm using the right bracket key. We don't want a brush this big. If I use that, it's actually erasing all the way down. We can't tell it, but it's actually going down into her face. So I'm going to do a Control Z to undo that. And I'm going to use my left bracket key to do something like this. This is plenty large enough. So if you have problems that you're erasing too much, I suggest to you that your brush is probably too big. If you're not getting enough, then your brush is probably too small. So what we typically would do then is come down here and erase. I want to save this hair right here, so I don't want to paint over this hair. Otherwise, that cross that's right there in the middle, I don't want to run it over the top of that hair. I'm going to let go. See, it still did away with that. I'll show you what I'm going to do here in just a minute. I'm going to go ahead and run this on around. I'm keeping that cross off of her hair. Now there's a place or two where I'm going to have to run that cross into the hair. I actually touched the hair there. I'm going to go ahead and just let go with the mouse. Look at the amazing job it's already doing. So I'm going to go ahead on down here. And I'm going to click right in there to get some of that hair. Click right in there in the middle. Click right there where that hole is in between the hair. Let's go back over here and click a little bit there. Now, if you're not getting all that to go away like you want, you might try going here where it says decontaminate colors. Watch what goes on the screen when you do that. So some of that went away, and then you might want to run decontaminate up further. Don't go all the way up, because that can really take a lot of stuff away that doesn't need to go. Don't go any further than you need to. Now, right here where the hair went away, let's go right here where the brush is. Click and hold that down and go to where it says Erase Refinement Tool. Click on that, and let's just paint right here where the hair went away, and then let go. You see it brought all that back. Let's just go right there and bring that back as well. I'm going to click back on there, holding it down, and go back again to the Refine Radius tool, and I'm going to change this to a smaller brush yet. So left bracket key to get a smaller brush. And now I'm going to paint with this smaller brush down here. Get rid of some of this stuff. And try to preserve that hair is what I'm doing. And notice it's a bit different now with this smaller brush. I'm going to click right in there and try to get rid of some of that. So if you're a little more patient, sometimes you can get better results, is what the key is. Now I still went back and clicked and got, a little bit too far. So again, I'm going to go to Erase, brings that back, Refine, I'm going to move that over a little bit. Going to make the brush bigger for down here. Try to get, I'm not having any luck getting rid of that, am I? Let me take care of that with the mask then. Everything else looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead. We've got the new layer with layer mask. I'm going to click OK. So we can see right here the stuff that was left, which is okay. So now what I'm going to do is come over here and turn the brush on. So just click right on the brush or hit the letter B. Change your color over here if it's not already on black. Hit the letter D to bring up black and white and make sure black's on top. If it's not, press the letter X as in X-ray. And then we're going to paint. Make sure that the brackets, the white brackets, let's make that a bit bigger. Let's turn on my panel options. Select this big one here. Make sure that the white brackets show that the mask is the thing that's selected. And then I'm going to paint this stuff back away. I'm going to make my brush, sorry about that. I don't know why it kicked on the layer mask, but really doesn't matter a lot. I'm going to go down here. Now that was just me rushing in. Control Z a couple of times here. Control Alt Z. I don't like that filled with the mask like that much. I don't like that jumping on either. Okay, let's see here. Turn that back on and then we can see better. Looks like we could kind of mess that up right there. So Control Z. Must turn on, just press the letter X to turn the white on. Looks like we might have erased a little bit more there than what we should have. So painted that back in a little bit, and now I'm going to switch back by pressing X again. Get a smaller brush, and I'm going to click on that so I don't have that so soft. That's when you have it real soft, it kind of oversprays, and then you don't, you get that edge that's taking things away that you don't want to take away. And we'll get around that hair. Now we have to really blow it up, so we don't want to erase things that we want to keep. Now here's where we need to go back to soft brush, because we're in a soft area, so to speak. Took too much away there. X again to paint that back in. X again, small brush, so I press the left bracket key. There we go. Here, a little bit bigger brush. Paint that. With the mask, we just have the ability to fine-tune all this. It's wonderful. So let's zoom back out, Control or Command minus. And I think we're ready for our background. Look at how good that little piece of hair is now. So let's go to Christy C's background. And hopefully you remember the steps to get this. I think it's Control A, right? Control A to what? To select it all. Then Control C, right? To copy it all. Then we come back over to this layer and Control V as in victory to paste it. And then all we have to do, let's move this whole thing out where we can see it. And let's just click, drag it, notice the double lines, let go. And there she is on her new background, and our edges look pretty sweet all around there. Now right there's a little piece of clutter. If we turn her off, watch, see that little clutter right there belongs to this. So we'll click on that mask and we'll paint any possible clutters back out of there. And then we can, let's do a Control zero there. Then we can do a Control S to save this, and we've got a nice new image with a nice new background. Of course, it could have been any background, and we can crop it to fit. Let's just see, I can't remember. Oh, it's already an 8x10 at 300, so it's ready to print. And I think it'd be pretty convincing print as well. Right here seems to be a little problem, kind of a ghosty edge that we might be better off doing something with. So we can go back to the mask with the brush and make sure the thing is really soft. And I'm going to make it fairly big, because I'm just going to kind of come in and hit it like this. I'm clicking from a distance, because I want to softly get rid of some of that. And that's, going to do it. Right here seems to be a little place. There we go. So just a little tip there on gathering up some of those stray areas, so to speak. So that takes care of the more traditional cutout of a person with curly hair. It really works with, extreme curly or flyaway hair as well. Okay, so here we've got Spice, and I notice there's a little bit of a greenishness to this, so I'm going to go ahead and bring in an adjustment layer here and see if we can't adjust a little bit of more reddishness in there to get some of that out. I think that looks a little bit better. But we're going to do a Control E to go ahead and mesh that down. Alright, I'm happier with that. Hopefully Steve is too. So let's get going with this. Now, a black background and trying to do the refine edges may be a little problematic, but we're going to try it just with the regular lasso and see what we end up with, okay? No reason not to. I haven't tried this. Now that's a little too close, so I'm going to hold down the Shift key and drag a little more selection right there. And I'm going to hold down the Alt key or Option key on a Mac. Didn't really mean to do that. Let's try that again. Now we go. I don't know what I actually held down. Just kind of taken away a little bit. Kind of shooting in the dark, no pun intended, because I don't know about some of these edges, because the feathers right in here are really, really blending. As you see, I think you can see that. See where some of those edges are? And it's hard for me to pick that up visually. Photoshop's going to see there. I can even see some purpley, it's pink, I was told, but when you've got black encroaching on it like that, we're getting some different colors coming in there. So let's just see what happens with refine edge. So we did that. Let's click on Smart Radius and run this puppy on up here, and again, no pun intended by saying puppy. Let's go ahead and just run the brush down here, see what happens. That's all I know to do. Just see what goes on. This could be very interesting. It may do amazing things. Oh my, it actually did do amazing things. Look at the edge of those feathers. That's remarkable to me. That is truly remarkable. Get right there. A little bit right there. That's scary, spooky, awesome. It really is. All right, let's just go with that. Let's go over here to Output 2, new layer with layer mask. Click OK. And there we've got our new layer and layer mask. Here is the truck and bale of hay and everything. And obviously, we don't want all that other stuff in there. So we're going to crop this way down. And let's just get with the process here. Let's get something here we can work with. Bring that over here, still more. And notice it's keeping our 8x10 sizes. Let's try this. Let's see what we get. Let's go back over here and get our pup. And let's turn that off. And let's get the old selection going here. Just let's do a Control A, and that should put marching ants around everything. Control C to copy it, right? And then over here, Control V for victory. And we messed up. I like to include everybody when I mess up, not just, you know, say, oh, I messed up. Got to be on the right layer. And I need to apply the layer mask because right now it sees this. So I'm going to right click and say apply. Now do a Control C. Control V. V as in victory. And there's our gal. Put her up there. Now see right here, because it was at the edge of the image, we got this little square line. Doesn't matter. I'm going to put it right in there. And because she's on her own layer, guess what we can do? We just click on the square donut. Got our new layer mask here. Turn on the brush tool. And we want a nice soft brush, so still is. And let's turn down the opacity so we don't get crazy here. Let's blow this up, so Control Spacebar, Command Spacebar on a Mac, and then we just paint some of this stuff away. Now it's okay to leave some of this because we can say that's part of our drop shadow, because it's going to need a drop shadow to make it look like it belongs there. And we're actually going to put a drop shadow on it, so but we can control that. We don't need really what came over with it. Whoops, Control Z, went a little nutty there. I just can't believe what a great job. Look at the feathers. Really did a great job. Now right here, we don't need those feathers there because it just kind of got some crazy edges there, and that's okay. We're going to get rid of that right there too. Right there. Okay, now let's put a drop shadow on. So let's click on this box. This was highlighted to put the mask on and adjust the mask. So let's select this and click on the FX button or icon. This allows us to put a drop shadow on. You immediately see here's the drop shadow. I'm going to do Control Z to move it back where it was there. And then we can use this wonderful gigantic box. We can change the size of it. Watch what's going on back here. And we can change the opacity. We can spread it. Obviously, that's wacky. Let's just try to get it close. Because what I'm going to do is put it on its own layer so we can really control it better. I want to try to put, let me try to put a 2. Oh yeah, that's way over the top. Let's go to 1. Let's move that out a little bit. Now, because this is going to be on its own layer, we don't have to get this perfect. Let's go ahead and click OK. Now, I'm going to move this up so you can see this part. I'm going to click over here, and actually you don't need to see that part. You need to see this part. I'm going to right click on the FX and say create layer, and that created a copy of the let me undo that real quick. Control Z. There's the drop shadow right here. So if I turn that eyeball off, see the drop shadow goes on and off. If I right click on the FX and say create layer, then it takes away that drop shadow that was under the FX and gives us the brand new layer that is the drop shadow. So now we can do whatever we want with that drop shadow and turn on the move tool, and got to be on the right layer. And we can move that drop shadow wherever we want. And if you remember, we can do a Control T, and we can, distort the drop shadow. I hit escape, and do whatever we want with it. In this case, we're using the drop shadow to make it look like Spice actually belongs in this image. So what we're trying to do is just create a little bit of separation there. We don't really need a drop shadow behind her. We just need a little bit of something back there in the back. So what we're going to do is put a mask on here as well. So click on the little square donut to create this mask. Turn on a brush, and we're going to make this 100%. Make the brush big, anyway, and just paint that mask away, except at the bottom. So now it's just, see it, it's at the bottom. So let's put this layer back over here. That wasn't as clever as I thought it was going to be. Let's put that back in there, move that over, and let's take a look here and see what Spice looks like. Control minus, and let's transform her because she looks like a giant on there. So let's do a Control T. Now the thing is, her and her shadow are on 2 different layers. So let's select both layers, and to do that I'm going to hold down the Control key and click on this layer also. So actually I'm going to click on the Shift key and click on both layers. That'll let me select both. I don't need the marching ants on. Now I can do the Control T, and this is going to allow me to transform whatever's on both layers at the same time. Now I need to hold down the Shift key while I transform this so I don't distort her. Okay, so now lay it back down there, double click or hit enter. Now I can adjust. Remember, the shadow is just on this layer here, so I can continue to adjust the drop shadow if I need to, and I can adjust her if I need to. Now I've unselected the, I'm just selecting one layer at a time now, so I can undo that mask if I want to and have the whole let me show you. I can just click on the mask and paint with white and bring the whole mask back again. See? Now, if I click on this, and I can move the whole drop shadow again anywhere I want to. So I'm going to Control Alt Shift a couple of times, bring the mask back, and let's do F so you can see it without the encumbrances. Make it a little bit bigger so you can see how she looks. Now she's floating a little bit. I'm not going to spend time getting the drop shadow just perfect to make her look like she really belongs there. But I wanted you to see what kind of a job that the Refine Mask tool would do. I also want to show you the other method of making a mask. So let's do that real quick. So let me F that again. Let's go back to this image. I'm going to throw that away. Control D to turn off the marching ants. So if we didn't have such a great way to make a selection using the Refine Edge tool, sometimes there is another way to make a selection, and I've used this method on several images, especially if it has great contrast. Here's the way to do it. You would go to Channels, and you find the channel that has the most contrast to it. And to do that, you click on each channel individually, the red, the green, and the blue. And you look at, the subject, in this case, Spice, versus the background, and you say, red, is it green? And usually it's not green. Usually it's not green. It's a really kind of a toss-up sometimes between the red and the blue, but I'm going to go with red. I think I can really control the background and the subject pretty easily right here on red. So what we do is make a copy of the red channel. So we just drag it down to this new layer or new channel icon. That's what this is right here. So now we have a red copy. So we're going to call this, just going to rename it Mask. We don't have to do that, but I like doing that. So what I'm going to do at this point is I want to make this differentiate even more than what it is. So I'm going to run levels on the channels. So I do a Control L to bring up levels, and the first thing I do is darken it down. I don't want to go too far because I don't want to affect what's in here on Spice. So then I go over to the other end and run the whites up as far as I can without interfering with the blacks. So let's see if we can't even shove that more. So that's it. But you see, we are actually controlling this pretty well. So we click OK. So I think you can see we do have a mask going here pretty quickly, because anything that's black and white becomes a mask. So now we can paint on this with white and black. Spice in this case is the white, so I'm going to make the brush a little bit smaller. We paint with 100%. White is right down here. So we just start painting in all of these areas with white. Now we don't need that soft of a brush. If you notice, if we get very close to the edge, it will spray over. So gotta be careful about that. It'll mess up your mask. See, it still did. Let's get down here even further. You want all of those things to be filled in. You don't want any. And right here, where you see that, that should be black. So I'm going to switch to black. I can hit X on my keyboard, and I want those things there to be black. And let's zoom in. It's important. This isn't a painful way to make a mask and make a selection. As you can see, it's really not that bad of a deal. You gotta get this. We probably could have left that. It was close enough that it probably wouldn't have been a big deal. I'm being a little finicky. And you look around in here and make sure X, I switched the colors. Look around in there because we don't want that to get a hole in it. It's what that would amount to. Alright, we're going to say that is perfect. And what we're going to do is run this down to this circle. Those are little marching ants is what that amounts to. So if I drag this down and drop it right on there, notice it turns on marching ants wherever those two meet, the black and the white meet. So I click back on the RGB, which turns the spice back on. Now see, you see some of the other colors in there, and that depends on how harsh I get when I run the levels. So if I come back over to this and I do a Control J, there's my selection. That's what I got when I ran that. Now I probably could have saved more feathers had I not ran the right slider up so far. So, you know, you have to experiment a little bit. So let's go back over. Let's do a Control A, Control C, and let's go back over here and let's throw this one away of spice, and let's do a Control V to paste it, and Control T to make it smaller, and let's hit enter, and let's put the drop shadow back there, and let's make it a little bit bigger, which makes it softer, by the way. See, if I soften it up, make it a little less intense. And then again, I can go here and right click on that and say create layer. And then we can, if we have it on its own layer, again, we can get rid of the upper part of it if we want to. Now, if you look at these edges, they're not as cool as the edges were when we did the refine edge. We can also hold down the control key and click on this to select that. We have black edges on here, so we can modify and contract these and inverse it, and we can get rid of some of the black, but it doesn't look to me like it did near as good a job. But what in all fairness, let's get rid of that shadow. Let's go back here and let me do another one really quickly and see if I can't improve that. By not going so far that way. I think it's still going to do that, though. I really think that it did just such a great job with that refined edge that that's probably what I would stick with. I don't think I can get as good a combination. And let's try filling this. Oops. Z, do with white. We'll do this one really fast. We don't eliminate that stuff that we did earlier. Okay, drag that down, turn that back on, come back over here, Control J. Probably the thing that that makes it rough is the black around the edges is the disturbing part. So let's see here. I'm going to try getting a refine edge. Let's see. Here we go. See what happens here. Let me need to be on the right one here. Turn that off. Refine edge. That looks pretty bad, doesn't it? Let's see what we get when we do this, just for chuckles. That's no good. Let's try it. Control Z. Nope, that didn't work. Cancel that. Do it again. Refine edge. Let's try the smart radius. Take that just a little bit more. I'm about determined to see something happen here. See if there's any chance it's going to give us the similar results that we got the first time anyway. Yes. All right. I am saying unequivocally that refine edge is the route to go over using the channels by far. So you've seen it both ways, and I would just use this. I mean, this seems to be really a strong contender for. Now, you see it went too far, but then this had two different methods run on it. So, but I think this is really the route to do this stuff with. I think it's going to get the flower detail and give it that nice feathery look. That's one of the keys to this whole thing. So you've seen it. It's your call which you'd want to do, but I definitely see what I would do making my selections. And I've done many of using the channel way, but it's just creating some jaggedy edges where this certainly isn't. I could have easily undone some of this, with the erase feature in Refine Edge. So anyway, you've seen it, and you need to experiment with it. You'll have both images to play with Christy and Spice, so have some fun with these. Okay.